income wise and double your time you're spending with your family, this is the episode for you. My brand new friend David is going to drop some knowledge bombs on you guys. He's a coach. He is an entrepreneur. He's an actor. He's a Swiss Army knife of positivity. And I'm so blessed and grateful to have him come on the show. Mitko, thank you so much for hooking us up and making this happen. David, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I'm glad to meet you, Richard. I enjoyed the little chat we had, getting to know each other a bit before this. And I love what you're all about, helping people with comeback and overcoming hardship. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm kind of curious to find out exactly what we're going to talk about.
Well, the first question I'm going to ask, because I have a traumatic brain injury. If I don't ask the question, I'll forget it. What is your definition of resiliency?
I think most people think of resiliency as not being thrown so much. Like, can you have something rough happen and still stay even keeled? But I don't like to think of it that way. I had a client ask me recently, how do I stay in this good state I have? And I said, I don't think that's the right question. I think the question is, how do I get back to it quicker next time I'm thrown? And that's my definition of resilience or resiliency. When I get upset and I get thrown a lot. I played pickleball last week, and the people we played against at the end of the match, they lost the match and said, we're not going to validate those results for the competition because we think there was too much confusion. Man, did I get upset. I got really upset about that. But it's how fast can you come back to being even keeled? How can you find the positive? I just spoke to a client who was on a plane, and a lady sat next to him, and he said she was spilling over into a third of his seat because she was a very large woman. And he said that was very upsetting for him. But then he told me how he reframed it. And within 60 seconds, he got to, hey, she's a human being too, and this might be difficult for her. And what's her life like to be like that? And he focused on his breath. And I'm like, that's resilience.
And I agree 100%. Like my mentor, Mr. Ed Milet, once told me, he said, uh, nothing has ever happened to you. It's all happened for you, and everything is a teachable moment. So I think,
Well,
we're going to be talking about that today is be in the moment. Everything is all about perspective and being in the moment. Because you can't win the day, you can't win the week, you can't win the year if you don't win the moment. So I think if
yeah.
we're in the moment, we can win our day. So first of all, you don't have that New Jersey accent like I have. So you're not from here. So give us a little background about where you come from, where did you grow up, and how did you become such a force like you are today?
Ooh, no one's ever asked me that one. I like that question. I'm an Aussie. So I grew up near Sydney, Australia, spent I guess 20 years there, and then I traveled for a year. It's almost like a law in Australia. You have to go travel. So I traveled for 12 months around the world and realized I couldn't afford to keep doing it because I was running out of money. So I asked for a job transfer, and I got very lucky and got transferred to Park Avenue and worked as a consulting actuary there. And I was having a good time, but someone sent me to a personal growth program because I was stressed, and my marriage was failing. And someone's like, go and check these people out. And Richard, I did not want to do this course because they all smiled way too much and they all wore name tags. And I'm like, this is some weird culty thing and I don't trust them. But fortunately, they were ready for me, and they cracked my cynicism and they cracked my heart open. And I discovered I knew a lot about business systems and money and business success, but I knew nothing about emotional vulnerability, emotional intelligence, authenticity, integrity. And thank God I found these guys, because they started to train me. And I spent the next 25 years sitting with therapists and doing my own work, dealing with my depression and anxiety, sitting with gurus and pushing the limits of human experience. And I discovered, when I kept training with these people, that as I found out how to do something and I got excited about how life could be better, I couldn't help but pass it on. And someone to get stuck in the course and say, oh man, this is just isn't working for me. I'm like, well, did you hear what the teacher said yesterday? And do you want to try that? And I accidentally changed somebody's life overnight. Something that had been bothering her for 10 years in her marriage and crushing her marriage got relieved overnight by something I said to her. And I was like, this feels good. And I quit my job and I started studying coaching. And even though I've tried to let it go a few times in life, I keep coming back. I just keep coming back for more. I get to talk about life and business and making more money and more time off, and how's your relationship with your kids and what's your legacy going to be. I can't imagine a better job in life. So I'm very blessed. And how I got to be a force, I don't have an immediate answer. I think, how did I become a force as a coach? I really think I tried 10,000 things, and 9,900 of them didn't work, and 100 of them did. And also, I have always sought out coaching. So if I want to do something well, like be a successful coach, I went and found the leading coach in Australia and I worked with them. When I wanted to be a speaker, I went and got a coach on how to be a speaker. I want to turn pickleball pro and be a senior pro in pickleball now. After just a year and a quarter playing pickleball, go and get myself a coach. So I think never saying die, and never hearing the word no very well, and also finding people who have been through this and are willing to show me how to do it better might be my shortest possible answer of how I managed to get some success at it.
Oh, and I love that and I appreciate that. But I also want talk about is sometimes coaches we're just people too. We put on our pants the same way as everybody else. We struggle with same thing as everybody else does.
Hell
And
yes.
and when we have something physical going on, whether it's an accident, like I got my head ran over by a Humvee and I'm blind, or whether it's hang gliding and having something happen. And sometimes we have people that's looking at us and be like, wait a minute, you're a coach, you can't give up. Because like somebody, when I was blind sitting in my chair for 18 months, somebody says, you're the comeback coach, you have to come back, you're the coach. But I needed coached up too. So isn't it important that coaches need coaches?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're kind of pulling back the curtain here. I think people see success and they just assume, well, that's how your life is, that because they see the shiny parts. But my goodness, it is not always shiny. And I've had to come back several times. There have been times when I've been deeply depressed and unable to function, and I've had to find my way through that. Even like we're in May right now.
Yep.
You go back to maybe December, January, I had let myself get in a state where I was starting to smoke weed early in the day and stay in bed playing games. I did that for a couple of months. Now, partly it was fun, but it's not sustainable. You can't keep doing it. And I was like, this has got to shift. And so I went and got myself a coach again and started doing the action that I need to do and stop doing the things that I shouldn't be doing and start upping my focus. And in a period, I'm not saying this is going to happen for everyone, and I'm surprised it happened for me, but in a period of 10 days or 2 weeks, I got 42 new clients. I got 20 pickleball clients and 22 executive coaching clients. And that's a comeback. That's a comeback. And now I'm really busy. And I'm telling this story because I don't want people to assume that someone who's successful doesn't have down moments and doesn't have failures and doesn't have to find their own way back as well. In fact, if I didn't fail, I couldn't coach. I wouldn't be able to relate to anybody. If I didn't have examples of story and have empathy of like, hey, I've been there too, and I know what that's like. And here's, let's try this as a way of getting out. Then I don't think I'd be effective at all. You don't want someone who's perfect as your coach because they won't know how to coach you. They won't know the way out of the hole. You want ideally someone who's been in those holes and they know the way out.
And I love the way focus. I love the word focus. Follow one course until successful. I love the word focus, and the reason why I talk about it all the time is being in military personnel. It's much better to be a sniper than to just pray and spray. And I think that if you want to hit your goals, you need to lock down your calendar and you need to focus one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything at once. So talk to us about focus, because that's how I was able to take 6 vacations last year, including 2 luxury cruises. Only working half the year, because when I am working, I'm focused 100%. I'm not focused on anything else.
All right. So I like that.
So talk to us, David, about how important focus is.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have goals, you don't care about goals, and focus doesn't matter at all. But I think there's the focus and intentionality. Let's call it intentionality, or being deliberate, is something we have that I don't think the other animals on the planet have. I don't think the dolphins get together. They're very intelligent animals, but I don't think they get together and say, hey, in 6 months, let's build this nice garden for ourselves. I don't do that. They're more instinctual. Now, that's a fun way to be, but we have that ability to declare, this is what I want to have happen in life. And often when I ask my clients, or someone starts working with me, or even when they do my free business assessment, it's going to ask you, what do you want? That can be confronting for a number of reasons, but I ask the question anyway. And the people who are willing to spend some time on it and do some reflection, they start creating. Okay, I'd like for me, I asked myself that question last year, and I realized I really want to own a home in the US, in Asheville, North Carolina. That's what I want to be able to have a cat when I want to have a cat. And I want to be able to Airbnb my place when I go down to Colombia for 6 months out of the year. That's what I want. And so, I want a relationship, a long-term relationship. Like, get honest about what would have you be lit up, say, at the end of this year. Because that's going to change how you show up. It's changing how I show up. I wouldn't have gone and gotten 42 clients if I didn't want to own a home. I'd probably still be in bed playing games. But it changes a lot about behavior, just having those goals. I opened up Wednesday mornings now for coaching. I haven't coached on a Wednesday in maybe 10 or 15 years because I like to have that day off in the middle of the week where I can just do my deep work. I'm like, no, you're a working man now. You got a goal, own a home. So having that intentionality and starting with what would have me be very happy at the end of the year, I think is really important. And that's focus in itself. I'm going to focus on making money, qualifying for a home loan, dating to find a partner. And then you may also want to have a list of what you agree to put off. Because if you focus on everything and you allow everything to come into your life, there is no focus anymore. So I've agreed with myself, I'm not going to focus on the guitar and the piano this year. I've got my pickleball, I've got my revenue generation, I've got my community, and there might be some things that take up a lot of your time, maybe TV. You're like, I'm going to agree that there's going to be less TV, there's going to be less whatever. So that's, I like to call it gamifying your life, and you got to have some limits if in any game, or it's not a game. So what are you actually making happen this year, and what are you not going to do? Now you've got, I like to call it 4 levels of gamification. That's the first level of gamification over a 1-year period.
Okay, so let's talk about, I'm writing stuff down because, like I said, I have a traumatic brain injury. If I don't write it down, I'm going to forget. I love when you talk about your wants, because I talk to a lot of people and I tell them I don't focus on my needs, I focus on my want, because everybody has needs. I don't need to go on vacation 6 times a year. I want to go on vacation 6 times a year. And I think sometimes when you focus too much on your needs, you kind of get too narrow-minded, and you forget that there's a whole big world out there. So it's okay to want a house in the United States. It's okay to want a beach house. It's okay to want to drive a really, really nice car. It's not a need, but it's a want. But if you focus on your wants, you're probably going to get your needs. What are your thoughts?
I 100% agree. And I would say it's not only okay to want, but desire is a fuel source. Desire is good for you and for the world and people around you. Getting in touch with your passion. When I realize, like having a home is motivating for me, but I also live in a wonderful home now that I'm renting, right? So, but when I realize, wait a minute, if I buy my own home, I can put in a pickleball court. Oh, now I'm excited to have my own pickleball court in Asheville where my friends can come and play and we don't have to like fight for court space with other people. That motivates me. So desire is a fuel source, and it's a good thing. Particularly sometimes when I'm coaching women, who grew up being told not to want too much, and don't make too much noise and don't take up too much space. My God, no, your desire is a fuel source, and it's a gift, and it's a wonderful thing. Have desires and passionately go for achieving them. That's good for the world.
I love it. But again, like you talked about, you mentioned it, I think the one of the most important words in the world is no. Say
Right.
no. Like for me, if it's not God, family, or business, I'm probably going to say no. And I say no a lot more than I say yes. But because I want to make sure that I want to be where God wants me to be, and I can't be a happy, a loving, caring husband if I'm hanging out at the titty bar with the guys.
Right.
I have to say no. And in order for me to have the good things in life, I have to say no to certain things.
So how
important is the word no?
What I'm hearing is that you have clarity on the game you're playing.
Yep.
Right? When you don't know what game you're playing, you don't know what to say no to. You don't know what to say yes to. I don't think creating goals is right or morally good, and that you're wrong if you don't. If you're loving your life and you don't have goals, great, keep doing that. But it can be so fun to say, this is what matters to me. And once you've got that game, you know what to say no to. So to say no to hanging out with the guys at the titty bar, or maybe staying up late, because you know what you value and you know what game you're playing. So the first level is over a year. Let's do it. Now let's talk about how to make that happen, because a year is too long a time period to translate to the day-to-day. So the next level of gamification that I like to focus on with my clients is, what's your next week look like? And here we want to create another game so that we know what to say no to. Is you don't know what you're saying yes to, you don't know what to say no to. So you might look at your goals for the year and say, all right, and you look at your to-do list, and then you know you've got limited time. What matters most? If you're only going to get 5 to 10 things done next week, what are you going to choose? What gets to make it on the list? And that could be fun. You are God in this situation. You are the God of your own world, and you get to create anything you want. You could spend your time fully on an app that you're developing in AI, or you could spend it fully on getting more clients. You could spend it fully on anything you want. So what are you going to choose? And then I like to suggest that people map that onto their calendar, because otherwise, how are you going to know if you can fit it in? You don't even know at this point if that's all doable. Map it onto your calendar. When are you going to do it? How much time is that going to take? And then make some executive decisions. I got to say no. I got to say no. I'd like to do 20 things, but I can really only fit 10. So this is what I'll do. And the rest is going to go on my dream list. I call it a dream list because you're dreaming if you think you're going to get it done. Put that dream list in a drawer and play a game called, if I get everything done on my commitment list, I'm going to pull this out of the drawer and I get to do some bonus stuff. That's fun. Now you're ahead of the game. And you may have to make some executive decisions. This is why it's so cool to create this game. You might be like, you know what? To be honest, I can't really fit in that meeting with Bill. I don't have time. And I just can't fit everything I want. So I'm going to have to call Jane and renegotiate and push this back a week. I'm going to have to ask for help. And maybe, you know what? I'm going to delegate this to Jenny. So, 10 or 15 minutes of your time on a Friday at 4:00 in the afternoon with a cup of tea, saying, what's my game for next week? And you make those executive decisions. That 10 or 15 minutes is going to pay you back over and over and over again. And now you've got a reason to say no, because you've just committed to a bunch of stuff. And if you do have a coach, you might have promised your coach, this is what you're going to do. And so you're going to have to say no to people. Otherwise, you have no chance of winning at that game. No chance. This is why we create it. So that's the second level of gamification. We did a year, and then we did a week. And if you just do those two things, I think you're going to go a long way with the game of focus and being intentional and creating what you really care about, so that you can take those 6 vacations if that's your goal.
Yep. But like you said, if I'm going to play a game, I want to know all the rules. I want to know the obscure rules that almost nobody knows about. Like in the United States, Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches of all time. He knew the book back and forth. He knew all the obscure rules, but that's what made him the greatest coach in history, because he knew every rule, and he knew the rules that were so obscure nobody even thought about. But that's the way he played the game. He rigged the game in his own, to where he can win. And I think that, like you're talking about, the gamification, if you can rig the game in your favor, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I feel like you're pointing towards, you could play this game really well. And when you start it, most people, when they come to me, there's usually a lot of habits that aren't supporting them very well. And we can't change it overnight. So you start playing the game, and you start with, right, I'm going to do my weekly plan. And then usually they want to go to the next level, the third level, which is what's my tomorrow look like? And they create a daily plan. And then they're going to fall off the wagon. Things are going to get messed up. They're going to try it out, and maybe they were 30% successful. Great. All right. What happened? Where'd you fall off the wagon? Where'd it go wrong? And then what are we going to tweak now so you can play the game better this week? And they go ahead, and they do better at it, And then they come back and we keep refining. And then I give them some new rules. Hey, all right, now you're ready to go to be a bit more advanced. You got some good habits. Let's tweak it now. And I say to people, doing twice as much of what matters in half the time is not a ridiculous goal. It's not hyperbole. It's not crazy. It's completely attainable. I can't help you do twice as much of everything in half the time, but I can help you do twice as much of what matters and what's going to move the needle in half the time. And that's a 4x in productivity. That's not crazy. That's absolutely doable.
And most people don't realize that 20% of your work is what actually generates 80% of your money.
Right.
So even right. If you can bump it up another 20%, you're dominating the game.
Yeah. And when you start creating this game and start playing it, you start saying no to all the bullshit. You have to. If you don't play the game, then you can say yes to everything and you got no reason to say no, but you'll have to say no to those things that really aren't going to do that much. The brain's like, oh, I want to do it, like email. Oh man, I don't respond to a lot of my email. I don't have time because I'm playing this other game. We have to trim the fat. And that's why, what do they call it? They call it Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law, that work will expand to fill any container you set for it. So once you know that, the great opportunity is then to create artificial constraints. And that's what we're talking about here. You got to create, if you have a boss, sometimes your boss creates those constraints for you, but a lot of bosses aren't that great. And it's really up to you anyway. If you're your own boss, you have to create those constraints over the year, over a week, over a day, and then over the fourth level of gamification, which we haven't covered yet. You have to create those constraints for yourself so that you can then say no and you've got a valid game worth playing.
But once you realize that, even the military, I realized very early that the military, for me, it was a game. It was a mind fuck. And if I can figure out the game, then I can do anything. And I think in life is a game. And just like, somebody once asked Warren Buffett, do you play games? He said, yeah, my game is money. Yeah. It's like, that's my game. I don't play anything else. I don't play pickleball. I don't play poker. Money is my game. So wow. I think once you figure out your game, and like, I'm a big sports guy. I love basketball. Kobe Bryant, my favorite player of all time. Yeah. He once said, he's like, I stay in my lane. Excuse my language, guys, but he says, I stay in my lane, but I dominate that motherfucker. This is my lane. I stay in my lane. You're not going to see me acting. You're not going to see me making music. This is my game, and I'm going to dominate.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful thing to go for excellence in something. You don't have to at all. And a coach of mine once said, don't try and get an entrepreneur to focus on one thing, but try and get them to focus on 3. Right. And that served me well. If you can focus single-mindedly on one thing and that's a joy for you, and you can do excellence just for the pure joy of it, that's wonderful. But if that's too much for you, then I'm going to try and get you to focus on maybe 3 areas. So say in a business, I've identified about 9 areas that people might need to work on, but we can't work on all of them and we wouldn't want to. So the free business assessment, which I will give a link to at the end, I'll offer it free for listeners, is great because you get to assess yourself in 9 areas and work out what are the 3 for you that are going to move the needle this year. It might be lead generation. It might be conversions. It might be mindset. It might be productivity. It might be planning. It might be hiring. I don't know what it is for you, but work out. And if you can go one thing, that's amazing. One thing. A lot of people, that's too much for them. So I'm like, let's let's pick 3, and you can narrow your focus.
And I love that. And somebody once said, because I'm a guitar player, I'm the world's worst guitar player, or the world's okayest guitar player.
Okay.
But I was once told by my friend Marty Schwartz, from Marty's Music on YouTube. Check him out. He said, even if you just practice 15 minutes a day for 1 year, you're going to be better than 95% of the people in the world if you just do something for 15 minutes a day. And I think that's that focus, even that small amount of time, if you just focus on one thing for 15 minutes a day, you're going to be in the top 90 to 95% of the people in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when I hear that, I'm here, the word that comes up for me is structure. And structure, for me, is a huge part of coaching, and it's a huge part of creating something in the world. So focus is one thing that I love talking about, but also often all you need to create something in your life is some kind of structure for it. So if it's guitar that you want, all right, when in the day will you play guitar, and for how long? What are you committing to? I just had a client this morning who's like, I want to lose weight, and I think the way to do it is to lift weights and add that to my exercise routine. I said, okay, cool. What's your structure? And he came up with, I will lift 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week, and I'm going to start with that in the morning when I wake up. Cool. Set your alarm. Done. Right? There's some people are really big fans of habits, and I am too. You kind of are your habits. And if you want something new in your life, you just need a structure for it. Do a new habit for 30 days. Like this focus thing. Start doing your weekly date with yourself to create that weekly plan. Do that 4 to 8 times over 4 to 8 weeks, and that'll be your habit. You got that. Do your daily plan at the end of the day, just 10 minutes. What am I going to focus on tomorrow? What am I committed to? And what will I say no to? What's on my dream list? Okay. Now you do that for 30 days. Now you got a habit. It's part of your life. It's yours. And then the last level of gamification that I'm a big fan of, many people have heard of the Pomodoro technique. I love, if you got 2 hours to work, create a game. Don't just work for 2 hours on email or on your website. Write down for the next 25 minutes. That's the last game, the 25-minute game. For the next 25 minutes, what specifically will I do? It might be, I will draft my bio for the website. Okay, now you're doing time boxing. I will do that. Or I will make 7 phone calls in 25 minutes. Set the timer. All your notifications are off. Game on. You can't pass go and collect $200. You can't get distracted. You can't go to jail. You must focus now for 25 minutes because you just set a game. And if you go and check Amazon or you respond to a text message, you're not going to get those 7 phone calls in. So this is the last and most exciting game for me, is that next 25-minute game. And then when the timer goes off, and this is very hard to do, you must step away from the desk and you set a new timer for 5 minutes. Now you've got a 5-minute break. Go to the bathroom, do some push-ups, sweep the floor, get a cup of tea, break down some boxes, the thing you've been putting off for a month, whatever. You got 5 minutes, and that's kind of a new game. And then when the timer goes off, you're straight back to it, and you write down your next 25-minute task. Game on. It's actually surprisingly fun to do it that way, and you can't afford to have any distractions because you've created an artificial constraint, and you got all these 25-minute games during the day. I hope you try it. If you don't, if this isn't a religion for you already, listeners, I hope you'll try out the weekly plan, the daily plan, and the 25-minute game, because it can make your day a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, really why we're doing this, I'm not saying you do this to make more money, although you probably will. I'm not saying to do it to get more time off, although you probably will. I'm saying it because you can feel like a hero. at the end of the day. You actually said, this is what matters, and then you went and nailed it. That's why I tell people to do it. Everything else is gravy.
And like you're talking about, if you don't own your schedule is going to own you. You know, and that's why I love the book Atomic Habits. You are your habits. And if, like, I had David Meltzer come on the show, he's got I think he's got a $2 billion company now. And he says he schedules his whole day out. And he schedules fun. He schedules time with his wife. He schedules time to call his mom. He schedules time to call his daughter just to tell her he loves her. And he says you have to be flexible, but as long as I know what I'm doing tomorrow, like I knew yesterday, me and you were going to be talking today, and I was able to take my son to work. I was able to hang out with my wife before this. So I think if you write down your schedule, and I still write down a schedule because I'm still old school. You know, if you have a schedule, it's a lot easier because there's no, like even Jocko Willing said, you know, discipline equals freedom. So if you have everything written down or in your notes, you already know what you're going to be doing. It takes a lot less pressure off you, right?
Yes.
And you talk about the shiny object syndrome a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's discipline is freedom, and it seems counterintuitive, but I love waking up knowing what I'm doing today. I love knowing that there's a plan. I know what I'm doing. I know what to say no to. It's actually quite freeing. Go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. It's great. When you don't have that discipline, it's also fun because it can be a lot of dopamine and a lot of adrenaline going through the body, and you're multitasking and jumping from thing to thing. That can be cool. I have days like that, but discipline is freedom. I totally agree with you. And I would love to talk about shiny object syndrome, but unfortunately I do need to wrap up and get ready for another client call. Speaking of discipline, I try and really keep on time for my clients, and they know they can count on me showing up at the right time.
And I love it. And I'm so grateful that you came on. Mitko, I'm so grateful that you put us together. Thank you so much. Without you, we wouldn't be together, and I'm so grateful. So guys, how do we find you? How do we get in your ecosystem? And how can we support your mission? And where can we see you act?
Well, thank you. I don't feel like I need any support right now, but I appreciate it. Like, life's going really well. I would say if something in this spoke to you, and a good, easy next step, and this would get you into my ecosystem if you want that too, is I want to offer 3 things to listeners. One is the free business assessment. It'll take you 5 to 10 minutes. That's your investment. And it'll ask you probing questions about what you want and what your challenges are right now. And we'll assess you in the 9 areas that are the low-hanging fruit for most businesses that want to double revenue. So I'll give you a link to take that. Second offering is if you want me to look over your answers and help you create a plan, I will do a 15-minute call with you. The reason I do this and I don't charge is because it's how I find the right people to work with. Some people, 1 call's enough and they want to take the plan and go off and do it on their own. Some people, we can tell coaching's really going to help them. And so we might talk about setting up a coaching structure. But there's no strings attached. I'm not obligated to work with you. You're not obligated to work with me. We're just going to create a plan, and then we'll see if coaching is a fit. The third offering, if we do decide we want to work together, I have been charging a fixed fee for like 15 years. And recently I've been exploring a sliding scale because I realized not everyone can afford $2,000 a month for a coach. If you're earning over $250,000 a year, yeah, you should be paying that or more for a coach, but some people aren't there. And so what I'm offering is, if we do decide to work together, we would choose a number between $300 and $2,000 that feels appropriate for where you're at in your business. And my aim would be to get you to a level where paying my regular fee is a no-brainer. So the sliding scale is my third offering. And you can get the assessment and the call with me at this easy link. It's focus.ceo/quiz. So I didn't get the .com domain. I actually got the CEO domain, which I was very excited about. It's focus.ceo/quiz. And that'll allow you to get the free assessment, and you can leave it there if you want. If you want to get the call, just go along and it'll add you, add it to my calendar. And then if we do decide to work together, we can find a structure that's actually going to be a fit for you.
And I love it. So, David, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. Hopefully we can build a generational relationship from this moment on. And guys, like I say at the end of every show, every morning we wake up, we have a choice. We can be a victim or be a victor. And if you listen to this show, you're no longer a victim of your past. You're a victor of your present and your future. And like I always say, I win. So, guys, thank you for being winners, and thank you for always showing up. David, I love you, brother. Have a great week. And remember that vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have a great week, David. Be good.
Thank you, Richard. Ciao.